All right, let's call the meeting to
No, not
order
yet.
at
Not yet. Hold on.
6:35 PM.
I'll make
We
a
need a
motion
minute.
to open.
All those in favor?
Aye.
First up on the agenda tonight, we
Can you-
have
can
the
you guys hear me?
discussion of grant
Can you guys hear
agreement
me?
edits. I've provided you a copy of the edits. Last time we had talked about it, there was a question about adding some definitions into it. So with the definitions added, they added a definition for
Hello?
town administrator. Town administrator serves as the chief and is responsible for ensuring that all required updates, reports, and communications are submitted accurately and on time. The project manager also plays a key role in problem-solving, addressing any challenges that arise, and ensuring the project is successfully completed according to the approved scope, budget, and schedule. So any comments on those ones?
I think that's very thorough. I have a question about the project manager role. One of the things, and I might just not understand it well, is I don't know that a proponent of a project can coordinate like purchasing. Like, I think that has to go through the town.
The purchasing inevitably gets approved by Rebecca
Right.
before anything is purchased. But I believe the intent on that is, to have the project manager get the quotes. I'm sure Rebecca is more than willing to help,
No, for sure.
but the responsibility would lie on the project manager, not the town administrator, in efforts of not overloading that office.
No, of course, of course.
The project manager may have other people helping them, so it isn't just that doesn't have to be that one person,
Yeah.
right?
But I would imagine that would be, if, just say you put a project forward, if you wanted a team, you would assemble your own team.
Yes,
You
but you're the project manager, so. still
inevitably,
you need
the buck
to-
stops with you.
Yeah, right.
The next edit that was made on page 2, number 2, project scope of work. The recipient acknowledges that any changes to the project from what was approved by town meeting and from what was represented in the project application and during the project selection process in relationship to the use of CPA funds must be approved in advance and in writing by the CPC. Work which is outside of the scope of the town's CPA funding approval for the project will not be reimbursed.
Right, and we talked about the difference between maintenance costs and like
Yeah,
purchasing stuff. So
like I say, I think with the last meeting, when Mike came in with his scope modification,
Right,
that it just gives a little bit of oversight, right? Just because there's money, we're not just spending it to spend it, it still goes at the goal of what the project was to begin with. And like I say, I feel like we're just kind of like a last oversight upon that one.
I think we need to pay a little bit more attention to project submissions, because that's what we're gonna go by as to what the scope is and the budget.
Agreed.
So, if a project comes in with very vague budget categories, and we know that decisions are gonna have to be made about what goes in there or not, we maybe need to ask the person proposing it to come back with a more detailed budget.
Agreed. And I have a little further down the agenda about moving the deadline up for the
Yeah.
project submission to give us time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll visit that at that point. But I do wholeheartedly agree that, details are gonna matter as we're going forward.
true.
Then the term, number 3, the term of the grant is 3 years from the date of the town's execution of the grant agreement. All the work described in this grant agreement must be completed no later than 3 years after the commencement date, unless the Groveland CPC grants an extension for good cause shown, Extension shall be requested by the recipient no later than 4 months prior to the expiration of terms.
And this is again to make sure that there's time for the board to look at it and make sure that, you know, the details are right and it makes sense. It's good,
So-
it's good. It's
What
good.
what if the project is gonna take longer than 3 years, and that's stated at the very beginning when the application is made?
I would say, I personally believe that 3 years should be the go-between. I understand if it's a bigger project or whatever, I mean, we could edit just that one grant agreement if it was stated in the application that it was gonna be, you know, a 5-year project, 10-year project, whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if somebody puts a project in and they want X number of dollars, they've got to have developed that cost by the bid price, by what is entailed in the project and a schedule, so they know what they have to cover for management fees, for everything else. They should be able to tell exactly what the length of the project is within a reasonable end date. You know, within a couple of months. They're not gonna get 3 years into a project and all of a sudden come back and say, we need another 2 years.
Well,
Because there's no way that they've
But-
got
but-
all the funds to cover all those costs.
it's not unreasonable to require this is basically a check-in, right? You know, requiring it to check in for an extension. It doesn't say that they're limited, but again, you know, this gives some oversight as to, you know, are 2020 dollars the same as 2025 dollars, you know, and so are the things that were budgeted then no longer feasible because, you know, like, and 3 years is a good time frame to, you know, at least evaluate things like that, or what's been done, or have things that were unexpected popped up, you know, so, I also don't like the idea of having like a stable of, you know, this is an 8-year project, this is a 10-year project without any sort of.
Again, if a project is a 10-year project, then.
It can be.
and It can be, but I think that,
Just
that,
needs to state that clearly,
I
right?
feel like the default 3 is
Yeah.
more than sufficient for what these projects are. And if a special project comes up that
Right.
requires that 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you
No,
know,
this is-
we should take that up as a separate thing, as long as it's stated in the application that it's going to be that. I'd have no problems amending this agreement for it.
This is a rule, not the exception, and.
Exactly.
It's okay to have exceptions, sure. It's a good rule, I think.
All right, good.
All right. Number 4, budget, other sources of funding. Prior to the commencement of the work, the recipient must submit a complete project budget that accounts for the expenditure of all funds awarded under this grant agreement and all other sources of funding, if necessary to complete the project as described herein. The recipient shall not expend any grant funds unless sufficient sources of funding have been secured to complete the project and the project budget has been approved by the CPC.
It's a wise thing.
If the Groveland CPC determines that funds have been spent on goods or services not included in the project budget or otherwise not authorized under the CPA, the recipient shall be responsible for repayment of such funds to the CPA fund. We all good with that?
Yep.
Procurement, the recipient agrees to follow all procurement laws of the state of Massachusetts and the town of Groveland, including all procedures outlined by the town finance policy. This shall include, but not limited to, appraisals, estimates, bids, and prevailing wage rules. Pretty standard language there. Number 6, requirements for the release of funds. The grantee, which should say recipient, match the rest of the language, acknowledges and agrees that all disbursements of grant funds shall be made to the town administrator through the submission of a purchase order form prior to making any purchases. Reports every month until the completion date. The recipient shall provide the CPC with a written update on the progress toward completion of the project. The update must be provided in the project status report form. A closeout report, including digital photo documentation of the project, where appropriate, is due within 30 days of the completion date. The closeout report shall be to the satisfaction of the Groveland CPC, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. All documents, including but not limited to photographs, videos, etc., submitted to the CPC shall become property of the town of Groveland and shall be available for use by the town and available to the public under Mass Public Records Law. Pretty standard there. Gets the monthly check-in. Number 8 is a scope modification and change request process. The recipient acknowledges that any modification to the project scope, budget, timeline, or use of CPA funds that differs from the originally approved project application or the scope approved by town meeting must be reviewed and approved in advance and in writing by the CPC. In such cases, the recipient must submit a grant modification request form, which shall include a detailed description of the proposed changes, the reason for the modification, any budget impacts, and updated timelines as applicable. The CPC reserves the right to approve or deny any requested modification at its sole discretion. No work associated with a modified scope may begin, nor shall any funds be obligated or expended for such work until the modification has been formally approved in writing by the CPC. Failure to comply with this provision may result in suspension of funding, a requirement to return improperly used funds, or termination of the grant agreement. Pretty good there. 9 and 10, no changes, just renumbered. Number 14, no assignment. The grant agreement may not be assigned by the recipient without prior written agreement by the Groveland CPC. So you can't pass the responsibility on to another project manager. If you sign up for it, you own it,
Unless Groveland says so.
unless we say so. Default and termination, number 15. In the event of any dispute, claim, question, or disagreement arising from or relating to this grant agreement or the breach thereof, the parties shall use their best efforts to settle the dispute, claim, question, or disagreement. To this effect, they shall consult and negotiate with each other in good faith, and recognizing their mutual interests, attempt to reach an equitable solution satisfactory to both parties. If the parties are unable to reach a solution and the CPC alleges that the recipient has failed to fulfill its material obligations set forth under the terms of this agreement, the CPC shall deliver written notice to the recipient indicating such. Upon the recipient's receipt of said notice, the recipient shall immediately cease to expend any additional funds in connection with this agreement, and the recipient shall have 30 days or such reasonable time as agreed upon by the parties to cure the breach. If after such time the recipient fails to cure the breach, the CPC shall have the right, in its sole discretion, to terminate this grant agreement upon written notice to the recipient. Notwithstanding the foregoing, failure or delay in performance by recipient due to acts of God or other causes factually beyond its control and without its fault or negligence as determined by the CPC shall not be deemed a breach of this agreement, provided the recipient provides immediate notice of such to the CPC or project manager. Looks like the lawyer wrote that one.
I know, I was gonna say.
Not this one.
Acts of God.
Number 16, return of funds. Upon completion of the project, any funds awarded to the recipient under this agreement and not yet expended shall be returned forthwith to the town without further expenditure thereof. If the town determines that funds have been spent on purposes not included in the recipient's application for CPA funds or otherwise not authorized by the CPC and/or under the CPA, the recipient shall be liable to repay these funds to the town within 30 days of being notified of their unauthorized expenditure. If this grant agreement is terminated as a result of negligent or intentional acts or omissions of the recipient shall be liable to repay the town the entire amount of funding provided under this agreement, and the town shall take such steps as are necessary, including legal action to recover said funds.
Looks like the lettering is off too, there's two A's.
Yep. Noted. In the event the town is required to take legal action under this grant agreement, the recipient shall be liable for all costs incurred or expended by the town for the enforcement of this grant agreement, including but not limited to reasonable attorney fees, court costs. All return funds shall be deposited into the CPA fund and shall be made available for future grants to other recipients. The provisions of Section 16 shall survive termination of the agreement.
I mean, I don't know, that section, I don't care if you want to leave it in there, but it's a little, I don't think it's necessary, because you already said if you misspend funds, you gotta pay for them. Nobody gets money.
No, agreed. I think
You know what I
this
mean?
is more of a,
If someone tries to abscond with project funds, this is how you get them back.
No, but how would you abscond with project
Right.
funds? Because you're only getting funds to pay for things. You don't pay for them directly, the town pays directly. So all you're doing is submitting a purchase order and an invoice, you know, I mean, unless you're a complete criminal.
well, I guess that's why that section's in there.
Right.
I'm fine, I don't care. It's just
Mike
funny
moves to name that section if you're a complete criminal.
section.
All right, so does anybody have any issues with the edits?
Looks pretty inclusive.
I think it's-
Inclusive and
I
all.
think it's fine. It may dissuade some people from submitting grants.
Sign your life away.
All right, so I'll make the motion to approve the grant agreement with the edits made as we discussed, being changing grantee to recipient in section 6, and re-lettering section 16. Yeah. That's it.
And where is it? And adding it 16 sub C, it should be.
Yeah,
If.
I went re-lettering.
Well, no, adding if instead of.
Oh,
There's just there's just a
yep,
typo.
no, I actually do have that. And correcting C to say if this grant agreement is terminated.
Did you make a motion?
I did.
Second?
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Unanimous. Beautiful. Love it when we all can agree.
Great job, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent job there.
All right. Next up, we have discussion on CPA acknowledgement signage.
Yeah.
Okay, let me guess.
What are you doing now, Mike?
Doing my job.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ah,
So
Good Lord.
there's about 20 distinct places that would take a sign. That list, you see the list of 8 spots, all of those spots have more than one project that occurred there. So even though there's like 75 projects, a lot of them were at these 8 places to bring the total down needed to 20 signs. I guess, just wondering what people's thoughts are about saying what the project was in the year.
I like the idea of the year for sure.
The, the difficulty will come on some of these, like the Pines Recreation Area, it's probably at 10 projects.
We need to just keep hanging years underneath,
Y-
like the
right.
farmer.
Yeah, right, that's right. That's why it's a tall sign there.
Yeah, thing will be dragging on the ground in no time.
So, I mean, either the signs for those places could be larger, or, I don't know, I haven't.
Would we want to keep, put one on the tennis court, one on the pickleball court, one on the
I
basketball
think, I
court?
think that's
Well, if you could,
overreacting.
Right, before you know it, then
Yeah,
there's
well-
signs on everything.
It's more expensive, too, to
Right.
do it that way, right?
Yeah.
I think that. is a
Well,
possibility.
I look at this, like, you got this nice signpost hanging the sign, but I don't wonder if, we've got a fence down there, can we hang it on the
Oh,
fence?
yeah, that's just one
Yeah, that was gonna be
example.
my question. Is
That's
that's
just
gonna be
one
my-
example. I didn't get
Yeah.
other pictures, but they also could be, on a smaller sign, or, there's a sign at the playground at Bagnell that was done as an example, and it's attached to the fence.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So before we get too far into this, Rebecca and I had a conversation with Stuart over at the Community Preservation Coalition.
yeah,
And these are not gonna be, because they're project-specific signs, we're not gonna be able to do them out of administrative funds. We're gonna have to do this as a project for next year.
well, unless we don't make them project-specific. So that's the other thing.
So the way it was explained was, if it's advertising the CPC for an ongoing project, then we can do it out of administrative funds. An example of that would be if we got your CPA dollars at work banner and hung it on the fence that's surrounding Shanahan Field right now while the work is going on.
Yeah.
That's promoting the CPA versus after the fact, the project-specific ones, he said no.
No, I understand that. I asked him the same question. But we could put a sign that just said, this project was generously funded by the citizens of Groveland through the Community Preservation Act with the town seal on it, and say nothing else beyond that. I think that could be done with administrative, because it's very generic. But that's my question is that too generic?
Right,
Is
I feel like if we're gonna do it, let's do it right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's,
And I'd like to, I would say, let's put this as a project for next year.
well, we could, because it's gonna take a while to get to
No,
this point anyway. so-
Agreed. And the other thing I'd like to say as we're going through doing this, is I like the idea of all the signs being the same.
Yes,
And I would say that going forward on projects,
That's what.
we add the money in, but
Right.
we handle it.
oh, yes.
So,
yes.
we add $1,000 in for a sign, but we handle it versus the recipient, so that all the signs
Stay uniform.
stay
All
uniform.
the budgets for the last three or 4 years have that in there.
Okay,
So a lot of them we can do ahead of time, because they've got the money in the project if they haven't been closed out.
yeah.
So,
But I would not be comfortable doing this with administrative funds. I'm open to hear what anybody else has to say. This isn't a dictatorship, but I would not personally be comfortable with it.
I don't think it's problematic to do it with project funds. Especially with the concept of, hey, going forward, just make sure that when you do your budget, you budget for, the town sign that's gonna go
And
with
we've got to,
the.
and
go with
we
the project.
determine a fee for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see signs in Georgetown, and they were all the same, so.
Do we have any projects that are completed that do have the sign?
yes, there's 2 signs. There's one at Washington Hall, and there's one at the Bagnell Playground. I don't like them. They're metal signs that the letters come off after a while.
Where there's like vinyl letters stuck on a metal sign. Yeah, I think that's why we should kind of have control of it.
It wouldn't be unreasonable to have a catch-up project to sort of cover the things that have already been done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then in addition, as new things come up, then it's budgeted as part of the thing, just like anything else.
Now, if, I'm looking at your little list here that you made, that Shanahan Field, shouldn't that be included in the project? That was just last year, right?
Yes, but there was another project before that.
Gotcha.
So, like I say, all of these in that list have had at least 2 projects. Some of them have had several. So, we're gonna, I don't know what the answer is. What I want to do is do a little more research on what other towns have done. How have they handled this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because what you don't want to do is have to keep redoing signs.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I get it.
also, I think it's important that they are project-specific.
Yeah.
Because people need to know,
Well, right, that helps the education
right.
aspect
Yeah,
of
It
it.
really does.
I also wouldn't be opposed to, like Stuart was saying when I was having the conversation with him, is getting a banner to put on the temporary fencing around a project while the project is going on.
Yeah, that sounds
You know, and
good.
that's something
I
we,
like that.
we can
And when
reuse
it's
and
done, you take
reuse.
the banner down, roll it up, and save it for the next project.
100%,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I would
CPC
be,
dollars at work.
and I would be fine with administrative funds for that one.
Yeah.
Have a couple,
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
couple, because we
Yeah.
usually have multiple projects that are going on, but have a couple,
Sure.
one or two standby for
I
that
think
one,
I think
temporary ones.
Given the questions that people have about CPA and CP funding,
Right.
CPC funding, yeah, I think it's a good idea that we
Yeah, yeah, there's-
advertise them.
The skate park's about to get started, that'll all be fenced
Yeah,
off.
My concern is the several multi-projects, so as you go through this list, you have
Right.
Washington Hall and VZ Park, and that, do we really put an individual plaque for each project that we do, or do we do this site, make it a site level, and then have you could have placards for roofing X amount of dollars, or this, now that's a separate tab on a site, because you have some majors, and just throwing out options, because you have several for VZ Park.
Yeah.
Do we really need to put a placard up or a sign for a roof project, or an electrical upgrade? Like, where do you gonna put that on the electrical box that no one's gonna see, right?
Right, but a big park, that has been like the rewilding of, a VZ is something that everyone will see. And, so I don't think it's one size fits all. I think we have to look at these things kind of
If we have
individually because.
Site sign and show it all.
Like, with the concept being that there could be a big vista of a place that's a part of VZ that could use its own sign.
Well-
But also,
We got a new sign coming for VZ, right? Is it something we can incorporate into that?
No, that's not a CPA sign.
Oh, I thought it was
No, it's
it was
just-
in the project, the project, but could we add something onto that sign?
Too late.
All right.
but I mean,
Good idea, but.
Sign, they just installed it.
You can say, that's a good idea, but
No, it
you
is
missed the
good.
boat.
Yes.
Adam?
Yes, sir.
Okay, say you got VZ Park, you put a sign at when you're entering the main thing, and you could hang, like they do on real estate signs underneath. Okay, this covered, let me just quote a few.
yeah.
Billion long.
No,
Well,
but
right, it would drag all
basically
over the
says,
floor.
Okay, this was, this did, the roof on such and such a building, the this and this and this, and you just hang them underneath there, so people look at it and say, oh, look at all the stuff they got done.
It might also be
Just a
that
simple,
you could do something where it says, like to refer somewhere else for all the,
All this information.
several projects at the Pines, go to this website for, a detailed list or something like that,
Would you do a
like,
QR code?
I mean,
I like the idea.
What
that-
about a placard here in town?
I don't
hall?
use
A nice wooden placard, and when you could
I
have
won't.
those.
Add a little brass tag every,
3x5 and say, we did this project at this this amount of money.
right.
And
I-
now it's here at town hall, when someone comes in, you can say.
these are all the
project
projects.
sponsored by CPA.
Wall of fame.
The whole wall, yeah.
I actually like, I really like that idea.
Everything on a
Something
hard
that kind of
drive.
stands out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Can you add that in
several
too?
thousand
Yeah,
dollars.
well, we can put
Out of
that
my
in there in addition.
Yeah, no, I,
CPC Wall of Fame,
And
I
that could
love
be
it.
something we put on administrative funds as well, being that it's
You
here.
can't read a sign.
Because
yeah,
it
probably.
wouldn't be a very expensive cost.
No, we
to
probably, I'd like to check on
Where
it
would we
before.
put it?
Because I'm,
We're right in the front lobby, first thing you
there,
see when you come in.
Yeah.
That's where I would have assumed, but it's pretty busy there.
I mean, I can ask around.
Yeah. I see a lot of open walls here.
I think
Yeah.
that was a good
All
idea.
right, so,
Yeah.
I don't know if I like the whole, each placard hanging down from the sign.
I'll do more work on this.
Yeah, no, we can certainly revisit it, but I would like to, do you want to do the banners, or do you want me to?
Oh, no, let's get that.
Yeah, well, we gotta get a
Yeah.
design estimate and all that stuff. I'll take it and do
Okay,
it.
Sure.
But what do you guys think? 3 or 4 of them
Yeah.
to have, and,
Start with 3, we could always, once we
Yeah.
design it, then we could always order another one or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Once you have that.
The template.
labeling, that template, it'll be easy enough for a signage person to make it again.
Perfect.
I will, I'll start working on that. Keep an eye on your emails. I'll shoot out a little draft and see if we can't, workshop it and get some numbers together for the next meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, these are good ideas.
That's a great idea.
And then we'll circle the rest of them. Like I say, this would be a good project for next year to fix all the signage. All right, moving on. Discussion on moving the deadline for new project submission. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, we really need to comb through these applications, and I think give it a lot more attention than we did this year. Whether that's doubling down on the meetings at the end of the year, or if it's moving the date to, because it's the submission date was 12/31, maybe we move that to October or something to give us a couple more months to work through them. I mean, we only had the 4 projects this year, and that consumed very much of our time, right? We were kind of right down to the wire at a town meeting with that, so, if we get 20 projects next year,
What about a potential of like a phased approach? You could say that you could have a high level due in October, so we have an idea of what's coming in to have something,
and then a
someone could-
final,
Instead of someone doing all the legwork to have it for December 31st, they could say, here, this is my thought, this is what I want to do, and then the board can say yay or nay. Like, yes, this meets the criteria, it doesn't meet the criteria, this is what you would need to have to meet the criteria. Kind of breaks it down instead of having someone all at one time have everything all at once and saying, okay, I need more info, and now we're on crunch time before town meeting
yeah.
in March.
Like I said, that's why I feel like we should
Yeah.
definitely move the date up. I kind of like that idea, give us an idea of what you want to do by October, we'll hash it out, finalize by December, that still gives us time to fine tooth comb them.
And we'd probably have to set parameters there so it's not too high level where this is my idea and that's it.
Yeah.
Not a one-liner, you have to have a little bit of detail.
Yeah.
But something to at least get the ball rolling, and maybe that gives people listen, it's not just all in one shot, you have to have all this stuff in. Let's have you can have a little bit, we can talk you through it, we have support here at Town Hall that can help you out, things like that, so. There's all of it, any project is gonna is for the town, so we're here to help out if we can.
How do people know about,
Microphone?
do I have to keep it down?
no.
No,
How do people know,
You
Like-
have to talk into it.
no, it's good, they got you.
If it's green,
Yeah.
you're on.
so how would people know, like, if we move up the date, how is that? Is it just on the website?
It's on the website, it'll be in the CPA plan, we'll have a public hearing.
Maybe someone will tell What's Up Groveland.
Oh, yeah, we could,
Yeah.
we could do a
First
story on
of
the-
the month, Channel
Yeah.
22.
Right.
It would be part of the application process, which.
Yeah, we could put it in the
You
application.
should throw it on the, you would throw it on the, what timeline you have.
We could ask to put it on the sign out front.
Okay, yeah,
Sure.
okay. I
We
just
could-
wondered what.
We could put it on Facebook. We could do a lot of things,
Okay, is that what we do now?
Yeah,
to some level.
Okay, thank you.
so what are you thinking, like, timeline? Like, we gotta have that needs meeting, like the hearing, is that the time
That should
when-
be July,
Really, that soon?
kinda.
But couldn't we combine that with people coming in with their ideas? Because that's kind of what that meeting is supposed to be, like, we're discussing potential projects. So we could just up what we were asking from people. If you want to come and talk about a potential project, bring as much information as you can about what you're doing.
All right, so if we do, what if we do,
Wait,
July.
can I ask something before we get into that a little bit further? Do we have any rules or requirements about what, how we set this up logistically, or is it kind of a free-for-all based on what we decide?
Well, we're supposed to have that yearly hearing
On the 31st, or the, like, late near the. Yeah.
sometime. It doesn't
Yeah,
say
it-
when, but,
There's not some specific requirement that this has to be at this point of the year,
No,
or that we
no.
have to do any of that? you know?
right.
no, but if we do the needs hearing, say we did that in September. And then we give a deadline of October for high-level overview of project. And then December for final submission.
Like December 1st or 15th or something.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can,
do it again, it's July for the
no,
ideas.
September for the needs and ideas. October for the high level. And then, yeah, I think December 1st, because that'll give us,
2 meetings at
The
least.
final plan.
that'll give us December meeting, January meeting, February meeting, March meeting. That'll give us 4 meetings to really run them.
Right.
So let me understand, if somebody comes in September with a great idea, and we hear it, and we say, yes, go with it, and then they have to develop more plan,
A more detailed
more
plan.
detailed plan, responding to what people have
Yeah.
asked, questions that they're asked. Okay, and at some point, is there a way that we can say no to that in this process?
I would say we could steer people away that maybe that doesn't particularly fit in the CPA, but I think,
Well, because we've got the plan, our plan should go out to anyone who comes in September and we say, look, these are what we're looking for.
yeah,
If you get some ideas, oh, I want to do something about housing, well, here's our plan, go see what you can come up with that and come back to us in October, right?
We kind of had that this year
Yeah,
with several people that, like the person that wanted to get rid of the invasive knot down at Prairie Park. They didn't have an idea even what the limits were. So she came back the following month with more information. This happened in 2 or 3 of the applicants this year. And they came back with more information.
What's the breakdown for high level? What's high level?
You have a budget?
like a rough estimate, how you're gonna approach it.
Oh, so it's not a dollar amount? I guess I was thinking.
There
when
should
you
be,
said-
there should be some level of,
You could have an approximate cost,
Yeah.
But
approximate.
I guess I thought when you said a high-level project that we'd need more time for, that meant it was going to be a more complicated, expensive.
no, just, I think
High-level
high
summary.
level is like,
Like,
Okay. so that-
like a broad overview.
Okay, so it has
not
nothing to do with, like,
the
a
size of the
monetary-
project.
No.
Right. No,
Okay.
that's a good question.
Okay,
Gives them the opportunity to come in and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and we can say, this does not meet our criteria for the CPC funding, so you can't, either
Right.
yay, or
Take
you
your
have to,
idea
you have to
away.
address it a different way.
Right, okay.
And we can kind of
Thank
guide
you.
them.
okay.
Well, and I think it also leaves open the possibility for if someone comes in, someone comes in October not really completely ready to go, that gives them time to kind of go through the things, understanding that we've had a chance to talk with it. By contrast, if someone hasn't come in October but comes in December with a complete everything, it gives folks some extra opportunities to come in and, oh man, and, I kind of let this drop, I really need to, get at it. And still, so you're still saying, yellow light before red light.
right.
So I like the idea of, this sort of phased approach. I
There's
think it's good.
opportunity
It's a
there.
good idea.
There's opportunity for people that have never done it before or
Sure.
would be
Well, and there's al-
intimidated by doing it to
And
sit
there's
on
opportunity
it.
to get help as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, it's good.
good plan.
All right. So I will, do we need a motion for that?
I mean, we're
Well-
moving deadlines.
Let I'll write something up for next meeting, and then we'll approve that, because I think we still have
It still
time.
has to be voted for at town meeting, right? We can't, is that something we can do? Can we make
I
these
believe-
changes?
I believe we
tomorrow?
can,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
because it's not changing the law, it's just changing our
Timeline,
requirement
procedure.
procedures.
Okay.
But I'll write something up proper,
Proper.
so that it's not, there's a lot of ideas.
Cocktail napkin,
Yeah.
got it.
Well, I don't want to approve a bar napkin.
Nice.
All right. Moving on. Next, we got the discussion of public members approved at the annual town meeting. So the bylaw change was approved, so, 2 members are gonna be public members. I just wanna know how you guys wanna handle the procedure for getting applicants. When are we gonna vote on them? Do we want to bring them in and kind of interview them first, if there's, official applicants to pick?
I mean,
The
this
fit-
is
the fit?
Elaine and I think,
Yes.
yeah.
You guys could apply,
Please apply.
yeah,
You could what?
you could
I
apply.
intend to.
You're members of the public too.
Yeah.
So is there,
This was not to exclude anybody, it was
Oh, no,
merely to
right.
correct a thing, but, I mean, when do you guys are up June?
I think it's June.
June, yeah.
Is it?
So, do we want to have submissions due prior to that?
If we're going for.
I mean, it's May
July
19th.
1. I mean, we're gonna be under tight.
When do those bylaws go into effect? Have they been submitted and we have to be signed off upon from?
The
State-
the state
from
still
the
has to
state
sign off on them.
Yeah, so I don't,
Not
we
even
might
effective.
be in the same, we might have another year before this. By the time, we might have 2 missing members before that, so we might be in the same, that might be a following year for interviews and all that stuff. Because if you're talking June, we're in May, it's.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the
It's not,
interim,
it's not, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think the state's signed off on anything that we've had yet. It takes a little while for them to review and everything else, so.
Yeah, us and every other town?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially with the MBTA stuff and everything else going on.
Yeah.
We could just ask the select board to reappoint the current members and work on a wider opening of candidates for 2026.
with the argument being that we're not even really sure how the laws work, or how the rules work, because the town, the vote from the town hasn't even been officially approved.
Yeah.
So we're in this sort of, this sort of limbo, yeah.
I mean, we don't
exactly so.
wanna lose,
No, I don't want to lose the
2
members.
people,
No.
whoever
There's,
they are.
it's certainly not
Especially
beneficial,
active.
well, it's certainly not
Yeah.
beneficial to be down 2 members for a year, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's
So-
good.
Putting together a proposal to keep the members on until they're replaced by members of the public.
So if they approve what we did at town meeting in August,
Right.
are we doing it then, or are we waiting until the following year?
I would wait for the following year, because still, we wanna,
Robust application process.
yeah, and publicize it, because
Yeah.
Yeah,
these 2 positions represent areas, open space and affordable housing, so we we really want people who are kind of.
Well, they don't now, they're just public members, they're not tied to a particular space.
No, but we need more representation in those two areas, so, yes, they're public, but we'd like them to have some connection to the two areas. At least I would, anyway.
Could you advertise it that way? Or were you not?
Well, yeah,
allowed to
you
do-
could.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if, people need to know what you're looking for, if you're really looking for something, so that they have a fair
Well,
chance.
isn't that the stuff that CPC does, is that those
Yeah.
items, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would,
Basi-
I kind of disagree, Mike, with they need to be of those. We have a member of the Housing Authority, we have a member of the Rec Committee, which is also the Open Space Committee. So why are those positions more important, they need two members, when every other thing has one?
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing about financial stuff, you're representing the financial, the select board, obviously, they're concerned with the finances, so,
Well, I think,
Okay.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I look at it a little bit differently. I think that everybody up here is for doing it, what's right for the town. And
No, I
it doesn't-
agree.
Whether it's open space, whether it's historical, doesn't matter what piece of the pie you have, I think we all care about why, we're all here for that reason. So I don't think it matters whether it's a person for open space or a person for whatever. Where I'm here from the planning board. I could care less, has nothing to do, I'm not talking about the planning board.
Right.
That nothing, I care about the town and what we're making best decisions for the community itself. So I think any public interest is a good thing, regardless because we get it's still a 9-person board and we get their opinion and take it all into consideration. That's
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
I tend to agree with that.
yeah, but what if you had 9 members, none of whom represented any of the 4 areas?
Yeah, but that's not,
Well,
that's
the
not what we have.
law's written
Can't do
in a
it.
way that all the areas are represented.
No, but what I'm saying is, let's say, like it is now, but then also you didn't have a historic person who was interested in being on there, or there was no longer a historic commission, they faded away, and.
Then we would address it just like we did this past year,
No,
when that
but-
position didn't exist.
Right, but that's
We-
what I'm saying is potentially you could end up with nobody specifically representing those 4 areas.
Well, which may or may not be
Cross that bridge
fine.
when it comes to it.
Which
though.
may or may
I
not-
hope we
which-
never go there, but.
Which may or may not be fine, because, for example, one of the projects this year was an affordable housing project. And I mean, it wasn't brought forward by our affordable housing person, which is neither here nor there, but just because an area isn't specifically represented by a person doesn't mean that this board can't, this board is tasked to consider these areas.
Yes.
And so when someone comes forward, as Rebecca did with her, her, housing, proposal, like, we approved it, it went unanimous. It wasn't like there was some, recreation board conspiracy, trying to hound
you
all
were
the
up to no
funds.
good.
Right, exactly. So, I mean,
No, but it's the job of the 4 people who represent those areas.
We're talking about two
Well,
different things, though.
well, now
because
it's the
we're talking
job-
about the 2 public positions that we just added.
know.
We're not talking about the existing.
No, but
Right.
what I'm saying is we've lost advocates for those 2 areas.
no, we've consolidated them into basically
Well-
my role and someone else's.
I know,
And,
but-
and yours, I think. And so,
Kim is the housing.
oh,
so-
right. But, I mean, I hear you, but that was what we were essentially required to do. It wasn't like, we can't. I don't
Every
think-
area is represented currently. And with the bylaw the way it's written.
Can you talk to Stuart about this? Maybe give him a call
Yeah, I can.
and just see what his thoughts are about it?
Well, again, we were the only town that didn't have public members.
Well, you could have public members, but are we the only town that doesn't have somebody from those 4 committees.
We have all 4
Yeah,
committees
but
represented.
technically we do, but not really. We don't have anybody here who's representing affordable housing. Kim is on the Housing Authority.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was also supportive of Rebecca's
Oh, I'm sure you
paperwork.
were.
And
I
I look
don't,
forward to anything that develops out of that. And then this past month, I volunteered to look into the historic housing, and I've got a full page of information I found here for what I volunteered to do last month. So I don't mind, I don't think it's crossing into somebody else's territory. You just, if you need a hand, one of us will grab it, do what we can do.
Yeah,
We don't have to stay in our lane, do we?
No,
not once you're on the board, no.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
The more opinions, the better, as far as I'm
I
concerned.
went down.
What is the, it's the CPC plan, right, that we just went through, that we went through and talked about and made sure that.
That was the grant
The
agreement.
grant agreement.
State and the.
No, not today.
Oh,
Oh, last
The
meeting?
last
Yeah.
meeting, right?
Yeah.
So in that
It's nice.
plan has what is the requirement of the board and what we look at, correct? It says what we
Right.
are responsible for, so that kind of covers making sure that we are all responsible for the areas that we're in. I think, I was trying to look it up on what it said, but it made sure that it showed open space, recreation. If it calls, as long as it calls it out in our plan of what our,
Right.
the board responsibilities are, then.
Yeah.
no, I think.
And it's,
But I understand, Mike, I understand your concern if all of a sudden a bunch of boards that are already on here, the planning board, the finance board, recreation, they all fold. And now you just have a bunch of public members on here that don't have, that could now stack the deck and have whatever priority they want to have on here.
but again,
That's not the case right now.
the way the bylaw is written, you need to have someone from the historic commission, you need to have someone from the planning board, you need to have someone from conservation, you need to have someone from finance, you need to have someone from recreation, you need to have someone for affordable housing. So all the areas are covered by the bylaw and what you need to have. If we don't have those, we go to the select board, just like we did when we got Leah and Elaine, and say, can you please appoint members to the board?
Yeah.
At that point, you would ask, I would imagine, for someone in that particular area of expertise. But to put that need on the public members defeats the purpose of them being public members, as far as I'm
Right.
concerned.
well, what is the purpose of a public member?
Have extra voting bodies.
To have a
Public
different,
input.
to have
have
a
a different
different
perspective.
opinion,
Yeah.
a
No,
different
but
perspective.
That's the whole thing. What does that mean, a different perspective?
Well,
Coming in as a
No,
taxpayer
but
and
maybe
not
they-
tied to anything.
Maybe they hate
Defendant taxpayer.
CPA. They're against
Permanent.
CPA. Should they be on this board?
Why not? If you can convince them, you can convince anybody.
I don't know. I don't know. But
Well-
anyway, can you?
I'll talk to Stuart, but I, like I say,
Because
Yeah.
no sense in me calling him and then you call him.
yeah, no,
Why
agreed.
don't you just call him, see what he says? I don't know. I brought this up with him before, and he brought up some reservation about it to me, but I don't remember exactly what he said, so.
Yeah, I guess it would just be do we need to set criteria for our public
Yeah.
appointees, right?
Right.
If not, we don't have to worry about it, but is there some type of criteria they have to meet? There probably is, they probably have a general for other towns that have it as well. Like, this is what we would like you to focus on. But we have, that's what I mean, we have a CPC plan, that's what, we know what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And it's in the committee's plan in itself, so.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation with him and see where it goes. So we'll just put a pin in that for now with the pretty good feeling here that we're gonna end up just carrying on for another year before we enact the new changes.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have a choice. I don't think that the state's
You don't
gonna
think it's
sign
gonna
off
come
on
back that quick?
bylaws by,
No, and I don't wanna pull someone out in the middle of a cycle either, if we're going through projects and then all of a sudden it comes through, that's not
yep.
helpful to anybody.
Ask them if they want to stay.
Oh, they've both indicated they would like to stay.
Good,
And are very offended that I'm trying to get rid of them, which I'm not.
No, but I was just thinking the same thing. It's like I'm here saying, keep them. They may
Well,
not
right, right. And-
I think
and-
they've both made it very clear that they would like to stay.
Okay, good.
And when we're saying we can't keep them, it doesn't mean we don't want them.
No, it doesn't mean we can't keep you either.
Right, also true.
But it just, I want it to be an open process where anybody that wants to do it
Yeah.
Yeah,
can be heard
Yep.
and not,
No, that's paramount.
yeah.
so. All right, moving on. Update from town administrator on open projects. It's a hefty one tonight. So approved projects, the following CPC projects were approved at the annual town meeting, and we are now ready to move forward with the next steps. 46 Washington Street, environmental review, trail system enhancements, congregational church bell restoration, affordable housing initiatives, and an extension of funds to restore the Vito. At this stage, we need to provide each project lead with a grant agreement outlining the terms and expectations. We have two options for how to begin this process. I can email the grant agreement directly to each project contact, or the CPC can invite the project leads in for a meeting to review and discuss the agreement in person. Any thoughts on that?
Do we need more work to do?
These things are detailed out here, and
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily
Those are
need
the
more
updates.
face time.
Those are the
at this
updates to the
point with-
existing, yeah.
When there's gonna be reporting coming in anyway.
Yes.
Like, so
Because
if it's
I'm curious.
sign the grant agreement, or, hey, let's explain the grant agreement to you, and then have you sign it, like, I think if you're good, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth because
Peer-
then I look at the other way is
peer
if you
review.
invite them in and they come in and they sit, we can say as a board, congratulations, good luck. We're here to support you if you need anything like that kind of, those things. We're saying it right now at the time too, right? So you
Right.
can look, I look at it both ways. You could just send them a letter and say, hey, go ahead and move forward. If you want to come in
Well,
and meet
on-
us and we'll say,
On account of 90% of the projects are from people sitting at the table, I feel as though that may be unnecessary, and I think an email would probably be sufficient.
Again, conceptually a good idea, but. that's-
Yeah, it's not a
that's-
terrible
that's practically a
idea.
thing.
option one it is.
Option one.
So moved.
Once the agreements are issued, I will schedule individual follow-up meetings with each project lead to review the grant agreement and answer any questions, discuss next steps and milestones, request a detailed project plan and timeline, outline the required procurement process, including identifying vendors and confirming appropriate procedures to follow under public procurement laws. In the case of the Congregational Church, we will also need to execute a historic preservation restriction. I've reached out to town council to confirm the next steps in that process. So are we all in agreement that email is the communication on that one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Perfect.
Moved.
Ongoing project updates. In accordance with the requirements outlined in the signed CPC agreement, we have contacted project applicants for updates on their progress. Below is the current status of said projects. So, New Mill Pond, project management responsibilities have been transitioned to town administrator. 3 quotes were received for the land survey component of the project. 10,200, 13,500 to 15,500, and 12,000. These quotes include boundary, topographical, and wetland surveys. Next steps, the committee will need to determine how to proceed as current project funding is insufficient to cover the full cost of the survey. All right. So let's, we'll run through all these, and if we want to revisit that at the end, I'm sure we can. Crosstown Rec Trail, project management responsibilities have been transferred to the town administrator. As part of the transition, 3 design firms, TEC, Copley Wolf Design Group, and WDG Design were contacted to provide quotes for trail design services. Scopes of work have been received from Copley Wolf and WDG Design. The submitted scope should be reviewed in detail. The committee will need to select the firm whose proposal best aligns with the project's goals, budget, and timeline. The proposed project involves the creation of a new gravel walking path known as the Crosstown Trail, which will provide safe and accessible east-west pedestrian connection across a series of properties. The trail will begin at Main Street, utilizing an easement granted by Nichols Village, then cross Wood Street, and ultimately terminate just east of Center Street. To advance the trail alignment, the following steps will be required. Private landowner agreements. Several agreements must be secured with property owners to formalize access across key parcels. Public engagement. Community input will be gathered through public meetings to ensure transparency and incorporate resident feedback. Regulatory coordination. Formal discussions with the Groveland Conservation Commission will be necessary, particularly where the trail may intersect wetlands or other jurisdictional resource areas. The selected design consultant will support this effort by producing a conceptual design plan and related technical documentation. These deliverables will be critical for facilitating landowner negotiations, regulatory review, and public discussions. The conceptual plan will also help define the scope and requirements of future design, permitting, and construction phases. So I'm gonna put both those two on the next agenda, and get some documentation, and we can kinda, go over those where they require next steps from us.
These two are next agenda, okay.
Yeah, the new Mill Pond and the Crosstown Trail.
And there's a stack of documentation in here about those projects, correct?
Yes. So we can all review that and be educated when we come back next time.
Homework.
Love that.
All right, next update, Washington Hall paving and hydro seeding. No report was provided by the project manager.
Well, it's not spending much.
No, there's, $9,182 left. Mike, do you know if, are they done with that project?
No.
No? Do you know what's left?
I'm not sure. There's, could be the hydro seeding. I don't know.
Guess we will follow up. That's like the,
Do we have anything in our bylaws on something, and I know this is Claire, and Claire's in front of us a lot, so I know that we'll get an update, but in the future, if it's somebody else, I know that doesn't happen often, but if they don't give us monthly updates, and I know that we just rewrote something, but send a letter and say, you are requested to show up with the next meeting. We give you a 30-day notice, and if not, we're removing you, you're losing your funding. I mean, I think it has to go through bylaws, and it's got voted in, but there should be some type, we know we have a monthly update that has to occur, and they have to come back.
all right, we could edit the grant agreement to say that.
And we do, it does in the grant agreement, it does say that we can, if they are not following up to speed, that we can
Yeah.
remove it. I did say that, I did see that, but.
So that's gonna be the governing document of the whole operation anyway.
Okay.
In cases where people don't report, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily because they don't feel like reporting. It may be their understanding or misunderstanding that nothing was done this month, so why do I need to submit a report, kind of thing.
Well, that's,
A simple email that says nothing is done is sufficient.
Well, but is that what we want? You know what I mean?
Yes, because we wanna know
Well,
that
then
the
we
project
gotta-
is still
Well,
being
that's, so
pushed.
Mike, in the new grant, the grant agreement, it does say that, right?
Yeah.
It'll say that, and I'm not talking about anything that's going on right now, but I
No,
know in the
so-
new grant agreement, it does say that we expect monthly reports, and that's what we hope. Because we should, I mean, some of these projects have a lot of money, right? $20,000 is $20,000, and I'm just using this as an example. I'm not, this has nothing to do with it, right? We know Claire does great work for the town and everything else, so that has nothing to do with that, this situation. I'm just talking in general, if we give $100,000 to someone, we should hear some type of update. And it's not 1 month, it's not 2 months, you'd give them an extended period and say, hey,
Right.
I gotta get something.
No, I mean-
The town wants something back.
There's been no update on this project for 6 months.
Well, that's because I don't think anything's been done for 6
Well, right, but
Well, and that opens up a whole nother question. Why hasn't
Right.
anything been done in 6
No,
months?
but what I'm saying is, I think what DJ says is, going forward, we can hold people's feet to the fire a little bit more than now. These are older projects. They weren't set up for monthly meetings, so I think we have to maybe talk to them personally, somebody say, please come to the next meeting or give us an update, even if there's nothing. You know what I mean? Not just expect it to come in.
well, I mean, aren't these projects, they have a sunset anyway, right? Is there a deadline? to-
No.
No, these are
These-
forever projects.
I see.
This was when, after the deadline was removed and before the 3 years was put in the grant.
So the answer is, we're covered now, going forward.
Agreed.
Food for thought, I was thinking is.
No, I mean, I-
Here of no,
Well,
No report
it kills me
reply,
to see
say
10
no.
10 grand sitting there that could be being used for something and it's not.
Right.
and again, I'm not clear, as, it just happens to be the first one that says there's no update. It didn't matter which one came up that I saw
Sure.
no update, I was gonna say it on, so just was interested. That's all, thank you, sorry.
Oh, well, good talk. All right, Pine Skate Park. The consultant, Spawn Ranch, has secured a build crew for the skate park project. The project lead, who is local to the area, has provided valuable design feedback and suggested potential enhancements. Final decisions on design modifications are expected within the next week.
Jesus, expensive.
Once finalized, a revised set of renderings will be shared for review. The team will then move directly into the preparation of construction documents with initial focus on the grading plan, allowing Arthur Marcos and the Highway Department to begin site preparation. No delays or issues are anticipated at this time. The project remains on schedule for a late summer build. Planting and preserving historic trees. Update. 17 volunteers from a local company spent 4 hours cleaning up the Washington Street area at the base of VZ Hill of all trash, invasives, and dead branches, including those cut by landscaper in January. A volunteer arborist arranged for his company to trim and remove any dead branches from the 7 existing large maple and oak trees along Washington Street area at the base of the VZ Hill. A volunteer arborist has arranged for his company to fertilize the elms located in Elm Park. A landscaper was hired to water the 12 new trees for 10 weeks during the summer, as approved by the CPC in April. They will also mulch around the new trees and provide staking where needed. Next step, final installation of the new sign. Volunteers continue to help provide spring work on reforestation site. I have a question on that, Mike.
Yep.
And it's just because I drive by it every day on my way to work. If I was coming from, coming and VZ's on my right-hand side as I'm driving down Washington, Street, at the very end, right before the house, is like a dead tree that's covered in these vines. Is there any removal of that, or is it?
It's historic.
No.
Are there any plans to do anything with that? Yeah, because I drive by, I'm like, oh, wow, that looks really nice. And then like right at the end, right before the house, it's like, oh, man, we dropped the ball.
No, that area was cleared and cut with a special machine, and then after that, I went in there personally and did all the rest of the work. What's there, none of the vines that are on the trees are alive anymore.
Right. No, I saw that, but like, can we get them off of there?
Yes,
Can we cut down the dead tree that half of them are
Well,
wrapped around?
yes, well, that's, yeah, I mean,
I have a chainsaw, I will help.
all right. I was looking for somebody with a chainsaw because there's about 4 things that need to be cut right down to the ground. So,
Okay.
We have a tree wood,
you know, they're
don't we?
too busy.
Fair enough. I'm sorry, I don't mean to distract. I just, like I say, it catches my eye every time. Like,
No.
oh, that looks so nice. And then it's like, oh, man,
Yeah, no.
we stopped.
That area down there is kind of the last piece of that part of the project, so,
And is that house owned by the town
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Is that managed by VZ?
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure of getting some of the cars out of the driveway. They're sitting on cinder blocks.
Yeah.
Am I going too far? All right. Cemetery monument preservation. Epoch Preservation was on site this past week and confirmed their intention to complete all the work within the current calendar year. Community garden, no report was provided by the project manager. Washington Hall on the National Registry, no report provided by the project manager.
Oh, I can update on that.
Please?
We're working on getting bids. It's not been easy, but we're still working on getting bids from people. They have to meet certain criteria, so.
Have you found people to give you bids, or are you still
I
looking?
found one person.
Oh, and what do you need, 3 of them?
I think so. I don't know how we're gonna get 3. The state says, yeah, we have a real shortage in that area. It's nationwide. There aren't many people out there.
All right, so,
That's helpful.
all right, well, at least you've got something, at least you're working on it.
I'm working on it.
That's all I'm looking for, working on it.
Yeah.
Working on it.
All right, pine shade and seeding. The project and programs manager has contacted shade structure vendors to request quotes and coordinate installation logistics. A site meeting with Ultiplay is scheduled for Wednesday at the Pines to walk the area and discuss potential installation options. Once the shade structure locations have been finalized, we will proceed with determining the appropriate placement of benches to complement the layout and maximize usability. Town clerk scanned documents. The project manager explained the reports were picked up mid-April, and the eBiz contact anticipates the project will take 4 to 5 months. Perry Park design phase update. We are excited to share that our consultants have assembled a conceptual plan for the redesign of Perry Park, and we will be hosting a public engagement session to review and discuss the proposal on May 29th. The proposed redesign aims to restore and enhance this important community space by creating a more spacious, attractive, and welcoming environment. Improvements will include meaningful updates to the park's vegetation to promote sustainability and ecological health. The plan also envisions a small shade structure and swings to make the park even more inviting and vibrant for residents of all ages.
Sounds great, but it sounds like it might be expensive.
I'm looking forward to swinging down.
You know, as every time I drive by, it's wide, it's a lot of potential, like, there's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of stuff you can do,
Yeah.
but it's gonna take a lot of work to do it. It's not gonna be a,
You stop to convince people to not park there first.
yeah. And you said pickup the other day for all the electronics, right?
That's
Everyone was
right.
parked up there.
It's a functioning spot, but not all it was intended here.
All right, Pines parking enhancements. The contractor has completed installation of the binder pavement at the Pines extending down to the boat ramp, and the new pathway leading to the site is nearly finished. They are now focused on connecting the new path to the existing trail network and installing signage. Once that work is complete, the final top coat will be applied along with pavement stripings and markings. Increased activity at the park has made construction somewhat more challenging, but progress remains steady and on track.
The only thing I've noticed is that they haven't installed any of the handrails.
I'm sure it's coming.
I know.
Shanahan Field parking creation. The contractor has installed the binder course on the parking lot and is now working to finalize a few remaining items, including the sidewalk connection and landscaping. Once these are completed, the top coat of pavement will be installed, followed by the final striping and markings. Additional notes and updates, 46 Washington Street Market Feasibility Study. The town of Groveland is pursuing a comprehensive market feasibility study for the property located at 46 Washington Street. This effort is supported by a $25,000 earmark generously secured by Representative Ramos, for which the town is extremely grateful. The funding will support the analysis needed to determine the viability of repairing and repurposing the building for productive community or commercial use. The feasibility study will serve as a crucial tool in guiding future decisions regarding the property. It will evaluate several key factors, including market demand, renovation costs, financial feasibility, the condition of the building, and compliance with current zoning and regulatory requirements. These insights will help determine whether reinvestment in the building is a sustainable and beneficial path forward for the town. Based on preliminary discussions with consultants, the total cost of feasibility study is estimated to be in the range of $45,000 and $65,000. The town is actively preparing an application to secure the balance of funding needed to move the project forward. A more detailed and refined cost estimate will be provided as part of the application process. And then we've got the Crosstown Trail estimates and scopes of work that is homework. And then our last page, public engagement session for Perry Park, Thursday, May 29th at 6:30 PM at the Town Hall.
When is it? Or
Uh,
29?
May 29th,
Okay.
last page.
This one, there we go. Ah, this one right here.
All right, that concludes update. Set date and time for next meeting.
Phones out.
June 16th, 6:30 PM.
June 16.
Now we've done it.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
What was that date?
June 16th. All right, next up, approval of minutes from
June 15th,
16th.
16th, okay.
15th Father's Day.
Now I'm saying.
We can all wear our new golf socks in here.
Yeah.
And ties.
And ties, yep. Next up, approval of minutes from the 4/8/25 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the 4/8/2025 meeting.
Well done, thank you. Well done, thank you. A second.
Second from TJ. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Actually, we had, hold on a minute. Linda, DJ, you can't second it, you weren't here.
Oh, I read through them.
I read through them, they look good.
They sounded like things you would like.
Linda, DJ, and Leah were not here,
Well, I was there and I moved.
so I still need a second.
Second.
Second by Kim. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good point of order.
All right, other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting. DJ, you got anything?
I do not.
Linda?
No,
Leah?
I do.
All right.
I restarted looking for an update for this project, affordable housing development. And we don't seem to know where all of the documentation is. I got this stuff from Mike. That was what he had, but we have no other, I don't know another source to look for.
Did you
back
check
up
with
to
Rebecca?
I have not checked with Rebecca. Is there a library of this stuff?
The town clerk usually hangs on to those.
What she's
Beth was-
looking for is, that was funding
Is-
a report and plans and,
Did it ever get done?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But where's the report?
there's
Well, yeah, the
this,
report
that's the
and
question.
plans we
I'm
can-
happy to ask Rebecca if you think. that-
Yeah, she would be able to
Okay.
steer you into where it
And
is.
do we generally have, do we have libraries of this, all the documentation that's,
Because any public record is usually kept by the town clerk.
yeah.
That would,
I
Well-
don't know where that is, because having asked about affordable housing papers before,
yeah,
she does not seem to have them.
Well, you've also had a change in town clerks.
Well, yes, but,
yeah, I would say, why don't you reach out to Rebecca, see if she can find it.
Okay.
If you don't get a satisfactory answer, reach out to me and I will shake down somebody.
that sounds like a plan.
All right, Mike, you got anything?
No.
Patrick?
I'm all set.
Kim?
Last month, you asked me I volunteered to look into what makes historical buildings in town. And so I stopped at the assessor, and they do not have any criteria for having a historic building. So I went to the state and to the federal, and basically, the first thing is a building has to be in excess of 50 years old. But then there's several criterion that makes it qualify, whether it be a significant historical event associated with the property. A second would be a well-known person with connections to the property. Third is the design or construction, or make something that makes it unique. And lastly, the building has significant information potential. And then there's another criteria which has 7 aspects for the integrity of calling it a historic structure, is location, design, setting, type of materials, the quality of the workmanship, and does it belong to any association? And that's as far as I've gotten. The assessor's office cannot produce a list of buildings that are on the town records that are over 50 years old.
They can't search by build date?
No. But the assessor's office uses another company, which you can get to going through the websites, and then you have to go street by street, building by building, and pick up the estimated age of the buildings. I have not got into going and reviewing the 2,800 or 33,000 buildings that we have in town yet. And so,
Kim, do you know if it's the data is downloadable, that we could pull it onto, I could pull it onto a file, and then I could?
no, it's, you just have, she told me that you have to go through this other company, and it lists everybody's house and property and date, and what the taxes are and so forth, and you have to find that.
Did they give you a link to get to it?
Yeah, I wrote it down, but I don't have it with me.
Okay, if you
but-
wanna email it to me, I'll see what I can do with it, see if I can manipulate it a little bit and get a comprehensive list and see if I can kinda
Yeah.
move or something.
So, for example, Congo Church, St. Patrick's Church, yes, because they're unique structures, they would qualify. Little Red Schoolhouse would qualify.
The old library,
Huh?
the old library.
The old library, yes. But then you have to get into, like all the houses along Main Street. I mean, some of them are 200 years old, but doesn't qualify if it's been totally gutted and remodeled, because it's lost a lot of its architectural aspects. And we haven't had anybody, real famous live in certain, certain buildings. But I just basically spent, 10 hours on this. It's more like, it would take 30 or 40 hours to,
Put some artificial intelligence to work there. See if you can hack into the mainframe and get it to spit out what you want. There's always a way.
It's impressive what they can do, yeah.
so.
All right, well, I appreciate you doing that.
No, hey, I volunteered to do it. I got started. I haven't finished.
Well, why don't you hook up with DJ and team effort it? It seems like he might be able to swizzle through with the computer and
Maybe.
get it to find something.
Try.
My computer skills are somewhat limited.
The, just as a comment to that, the Historic Commission can decide if a building is historic or not. And usually, what we've always done in the past is require any projects that we're gonna do something with a building under historic category, that the commission takes a vote to say either they are or not historically.
What sort of criteria are they using when they're taking that vote? I gotta imagine it's gotta be somewhat similar to what Kim just listed off.
Yeah, I mean, a certain age and other, there's not that many that they've
No, there aren't.
done that, you know.
There are just a handful.
Yeah, because I mean.
Do you have a list of those?
They probably could come up
I
with
can
a
come up
list.
with
Could you
one.
come up
I
with a
don't have
list
it
then?
right now.
No, I'm not putting you on the spot. Could you email me a list of the ones you guys have deemed historic?
Yeah,
And I'll
I
distribute
think
it?
that would be on the website, that we would have the historical list on our website.
If we don't,
And
we
if it's
should.
registered, you would.
Be a good
idea.
Our historical buildings that would be registered or.
Because what it basically does is it eliminates all the
There are
new
3 buildings in town
streets
that are
and the
on
new
the
houses.
register,
It
and
eliminates
and they're all.
Yeah.
Harvard,
houses.
Oh.
Well,
Yale,
which
I
ones?
thought it sounded like we was going through the.
Parker
whole
Road,
thing.
Parker Circle.
Well,
I mean,
That makes
you could start listing,
All right.
I can list off
They
30
got-
streets.
very time
All the houses were built within the last.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
if that cuts some of the, if they've already deemed them historic.
Yeah, yeah.
This is an issue when, somebody, and I've been asked this question, Town Hall is over 50 years old, and if that's the only criteria you're using, then can we use CPA funds to do all kinds of work here in Town Hall? I think,
I'd argue that not much of significance, aside from being the town hall and being old.
yeah, right,
Important
so.
things
well,
happen here.
Paul Revere didn't hang his bell up in the steeple.
No, but what I'm saying is, I think you have to be careful to make sure you have criteria.
No, I agreed,
Right.
but you all, that cuts both ways too, because once you deem something historical, now to renovate it, now you have to keep all the original features of it. You can't go
Well-
changing everything.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
your
depends
cost,
how tricky you want to get into things.
Yeah, well, they posted a couple examples
List, right?
I was reading online. Somebody had this house that was built in the 1800s, and it had a lot of old architecture and finish in it. And they bought it, and then they said, well, we don't like that, so they gutted it. They got rid of every bit of horsehair plaster, all the old yellow pine trim that you couldn't even afford to buy now. And basically what happened was it now has got removed from the historic list.
Right,
Yeah.
remove the designation. So there was I thought a doctor that took photographs that are maintained by the library. I thought, Linda, do you know about that? The old houses, he took pictures, black and
Oh.
white photos.
Oh, yeah, I know,
Wood-
my
wood-
house is on it, Mr. Woodworth,
Yeah, I mean, would those all be historic houses?
yeah.
Except if they gutted them and renovated them, that changes it. But
Yeah.
I would think that would be a huge list of
It's,
buildings.
yeah, like my house is in there, but
I think ours is
I've,
too.
I've got it out and replaced.
All right.
insulated
Ours has
walls.
gotta be kept all.
We get, I'm gonna steer this back on track so we can
Okay.
finish and get out
I
of
like
here.
that. Thank you.
Elaine, do you have anything that?
I do not.
All right, I also do not, so I will take a motion to adjourn, please.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Voting for.
Journey.
Adjourning.
Go, Vanessa.
Meeting adjourned, 8:05 PM.
Nice job, Adam.